Alex Ellis, British High Commissioner to the Republic of India. They're jumping the gun, these High Commissioners. They didn't even wait for me. They're so eager to get on stage. And there's David Pine, the New Zealand High Commissioner to India as well. Gentlemen, good to see you. Thank you very much for joining. Should we answer that question? Because we love Slido so much. If you answer the question, High Commissioners, then it'll inspire our audience to be brave and get on this wonderful Slido app. So, High Commissioner Ellis, if I could start with you, what are the biggest challenges right now in international relations?
For those of you who haven't yet read the Integrated Review Refresh, the UK's latest strategy document, let's reel them off, because they're in that. Number one, greater global competition. This is a much more contested world than the world of 10 years ago. Secondly, not a challenge, but really an opportunity, the shift in power. 50% of the world's growth will come from this region until 2050. Thirdly, the kind of common goods we hold are getting worse, particularly in developments in climate change, and that's partly as a result of what Russia's done in Ukraine. So those are probably the three biggest ones, I would say.
Yeah, High Commissioner Pine. Yeah. Biggest challenges in international relations. Beat that. Do you have a document as big as that one?
No, we don't. But I think the consequence of those three challenges, and I wouldn't disagree with them as the preeminent ones, is the weakening of global institutions.
Yeah.
I think keeping faith with the bits of the system that are still working, particularly the world trading system, is a message I hope everybody takes home to their respective
What are the institutions that are working, and which are the ones that aren't and or need reform or binning?
Well, they all need reform. I think, you know the old saw about security being like oxygen and you don't notice it till it's gone. I think this is very true of the World Trade Organization. We all see the problems. We've seen a tick up in trade barriers. We've seen a failure to conclude the Doha round. We've seen troubles with the dispute settlement system. But we've lost sight of what it's actually delivered over 70 years of patient negotiation. There are probably one or two people in this room who are alive today because of the vaccines that India miraculously was able to produce, something it still hasn't got as much credit for internationally as it should have got. Would that miracle have been possible without the global value chains that are underpinned by the World Trade Organization? I don't think so. The inputs for every little vial came from 160 plus different countries. So we absolutely can't take for granted or lose sight of the importance of that fundamental set of rules. It still has the engagement of all the large powers. It's still the one organization that both China and the US are fully engaged in. And, you know, ministers meet again in Abu Dhabi in February of next year, and I hope everybody goes home with a message to their own governments: keep engaged, keep faith with the World Trade Organization.
Yeah. Is that the message that you're following, High Commissioner Ellis? Is the WTO still as apt as it was all those decades ago? If I suddenly miraculously made you head of the organization, how would you, you've just been, I don't know whether it's a promotion or a demotion. I'll let the audience decide.
Hospital pass, I think we call it.
How would you fix it? Because clearly it needs fixing.
Well, you need to bring in countries like India more into the center of those institutions. That's why the UK in its strategy document endorsed again India becoming part of the UN Security Council, because these institutions have to reflect the reality of the world today and the reality in 10 years' time. India will be one of the three defining countries for the rest of my life globally. And so you've got to have it in the center of all these organizations.
As we're talking about trade, High Commissioner Pine, let's talk about your New Zealand's trade relationship with India. You recently ended talks on a free trade agreement. You're concentrating instead on a business relationship. What happened to the free trade agreement talks? Why did they break down? And is business relationship as sort of loose and floppy as it gets?
Look, I think it's important that FTAs don't become the measure of success. They're one tool, and in some circumstances, then perhaps not the right tool for the job. Our talks for an FTA hit political obstacles that were probably based more on perception than anything else, but nevertheless, there we were. So it's difficult for India to be perceived to be opening a market of 1.4 billion and to turn around to its industry and say we've secured access to a country of 5 million people a long way away in return. That's a political reality, it's not an economic one. But we'll always want an FTA, of course, we're a trading country, but we've found that it's now more productive to focus on what we can do together, and what we can do is a lot. New Zealand.
What are the key areas? I know that
New Zealand has a lot to offer in the agricultural technology space to issues that would be transformative and would make a much bigger impact than being able to sell them some
climate change, sustainable agriculture. I know digital economy is big, the green business as well.
Yeah, all that stuff.
Yeah, High Commissioner Ellis. We were sitting on stage in London in June talking about cricket and going to Lords in the early 1980s. And back then there was a different Prime Minister. Remember Boris Johnson? Since then we've had a few, but not to dwell too much on that. What happened to the whole Diwali, India, UK, FTA? By the way, I did ask Piyush Goyal that exact question last night. He sort of delicately said, oh, it wasn't really a target. I mean, it was to many. What happened to the Diwali deadline? And is there another deadline? How soon are we to achieving that prize of a UK-India FTA?
I think we are quite a long way along that track. I think we're now into the tough bits at the end, which makes for a tough negotiation. I think there is a lot to gain from both sides from doing an FTA, and I would say there are three things which should drive us towards a swift resolution of this negotiation. One is it gives us greater opportunity in both markets, lower tariffs, greater access for mobility, for example, greater access to services, lower cost trade. It brings benefits to both sides. Secondly, I think it gives greater confidence to investors. The UK and India are big investors in each other's economies, but I think we could go a lot further as India internationalizes more. And thirdly, it gives greater security. One of the reasons we're doing FTAs with countries like India is because we are natural partners in a very contested part of the world. So there are some reasons for trade and economic reasons why we should do the FTA. There's some others as well. We're into the tough bit, but the tough bit is always the fun bit too.
Yeah, the tough bit's always, get a t-shirt, the tough bit's always a fun bit. Can we talk, High Commissioner Pine, about the South Pacific, the Indo-Pacific regions, including the current state of security? High Commissioner Ellis talks about the importance of security. Tell me about the growing influence of China in the Pacific Island countries, and also New Zealand's view of India's growing influence in that region.
Yeah. What have we seen recently? We've seen Nauru opening a High Commission here. Remarkable, isn't it? And very, very welcome from our perspective. For us, we're very clear that the Indo-Pacific is our region, but the bit that India calls Oceania, so that's the Polynesia, Australasia, Micronesia, and Melanesia, that's our part of the Pacific. And obviously, we're very focused on the security of that region. We don't want to see it militarized. We want it to see it as a peaceful and nuclear-free part of the world. And that has been consistent for 40, 50 years. And our view of what's best for the region hasn't changed. I don't think I need to comment in front of this audience about the type of pressures that are going on that view.
Yeah.
But we certainly see India as a partner that has a lot to offer in our region. It's already engaging more. I think we'll see in Papua New Guinea a meeting of the Forum of India and the Pacific Island countries. We welcome that. We welcome the greater engagement. It's a terrific partner with a lot to offer.
Yeah. In our remaining minutes, High Commissioner Ellis, just tell our audience how important, the Indo-Pacific region is for the UK.
It's going to be important for the world. As I said, over 50% of the world's growth will be in this region between now and 2050. The greatest shift in technological power, sometimes in security power. That's why our integrated review refresh talks about the kind of Atlantic Pacific. In other words, you can't just concentrate on one theatre. You've got to look across the whole of the world. For the UK, that's important in security terms, but not just trade terms, also knowledge terms. It'll become more and more of a generator of knowledge in the next few years. So it is the central region of the world over the next 20 or 30 years.